Saba Gul. She is a citizen of Pakistan and a free thinker. Yeah. How can you represent yourself in short words? Free thinker or world citizen?
Yeah, world citizen is nice. Also free thinker.
Civil activist.
I won't say I'm like much of activist. I don't think I kind of propagate my views. I think that's what more activists do. But yeah, I think I would like to say myself that I'm a curious being who like to question everything, even though if everyone around me is believing something, I need to find a logic to pursue it myself. Yeah, I find it hard to do something just because everyone else is doing. It needs to resonate with me on a personal level. Yeah.
So, social critic and question everything. I like it so much. And in this video we will talk about religion and about Islam, theory and practice.
Okay.
With examples how Muslims use Islam in everyday life, and of course about controversial things as usual.
Yeah. Okay, so I can't say that my upbringing was extremely Islamic. In our household, my father always emphasized more on being a good human first, and then the religion came. But we were taught like some basic things about Islam. We in fact had this subject in school like during all years, so we were studying a lot. And then my mom's father, like my grandfather, he himself was an imam in a mosque. I just met him once actually, and then he passed away. So for me, Islam was different than what the Islam that a lot of people follow there. Again, I think it's because Quran was in Arabic initially, and a lot of people in our country, in Pakistan, read Quran in Arabic even though they don't understand the language, so they just read it. Second thing, in our religion we say that Quran is protected by God or by Allah himself, so it would never be changed. You know, for example, in certain religions or like in Christianity, they have the Old Testament and the New Testament or different versions, but in Quran has always been like one, and we say that it's because God had taken the responsibility to protect it himself. But then the thing is, like, let's say that Allah is protecting the Quran, but what about the people who are translating it? And then there are different versions of translations available, and even the translations are not enough to understand the book completely. Why? Because each verse was told to prophet or was revealed according to a certain circumstances. Like there is a background story for whatever is in Quran. And again, for those background stories or for the interpretation, there are again mixed views, especially for interpretation, because people always encourage you to read Quran with interpretation. If there is a verse, but you need to know what is the essence of it or what it's trying to say to you. And then when it comes to those interpretations, there are different types of it. There are some which are kind of more extremist, and there are some which focus more on the main idea. And that's why it's like, again, I would say somewhat controversial or confused situation. And also, this situation makes it easier for you to manipulate people because it's also sensitive at the same time. Like, I don't know if you know this book. It's by a Turkish writer, Elif Shafak. The book is called The 40 Rules of Love. And it's very famous actually. And she has, kind of compared. Like she would take a verse from Quran, like in her book Twice or Thrice, and then she would give two different interpretations of it. And you can see that just how you perceive it can completely change to like 360 degrees, like what's being asked or being told there by God. So first, that is like this kind of trouble with these holy books. Also, I think it's same with the other books, because they use some sort of complex language, so you can't really understand them unless you know the background and the interpretation. So with Islam, in Quran, it clearly says, and I have this verse, and if you want, I can give it to you, the reference, so you can put it in the description, where it says that the worst people near the God are those who do not listen, who do not see, and who do not resonate or understand. And also there has been numerous times where Quran says that these are signs for people who reflect, who think. So actually it is encouraging you to reflect and question more. Now again, there is another side of it, and I found it just while I was researching about it, that there are certain scenarios where it says that you shouldn't question it, but the interpretation of that I found most reasonable to me was that there are some things, if you ask them, they might trouble you. For example, if you ask like, when are you going to die? Or how will you die? Like, these are the things that will, make you uncomfortable, and you will keep thinking about it. But again, it's one interpretation. Maybe there is one which is not so friendly interpretation of it. But as I said, like, Quran has always encouraged you to be inquisitive. But in practice, these, not all, but a lot of these religious scholars would tell you the opposite. They would say that this is word of God and you should believe it as it is. And they would always misinterpret it. It's same with Taliban. Like, they use Islam to kind of justify their killings. Now those people, I don't think that those were adults and then somebody told them. I think those people are brainwashed from a very young age. And that's how, actually, those are not much different from an animal, or no, I think animals are sometimes smarter. I shouldn't blame animals for this, but those are people who don't really use their brains, or it's like an empty brain and you can just tell them whatever you want to. But in general, what I think about Pakistan is that culture is stronger than religion there, but people don't understand it. Because we are an Islamic republic, and also our people are so emotional, sensitive, and questioning these things require you to leave your comfort zone. Because when you first start questioning about religion, about God, for a while you feel uncomfortable and you feel like, are you committing a sin or something? And I think they are not ready for this, or they are not encouraged to do this. Even though I believe that this is a really harmless, yet a very important thing, which is completely harmless if you question things. Because there are two things that will happen. Either you will end up becoming stronger in your faith, and you will feel that what you know is right, which will make you, I think, a more confident person. Or the second case is that you will change your beliefs, and you will feel that what you knew was not right, which is again a growth. So either ways, it's your growth, and I think you should question things and try to understand the logic or the reasoning behind it. But then again, one of the reasons I gave you, like, that's why. And then there is another thing, like in our country, eve teasing or catcalling or women harassment is very common. Like, even I had been harassed, even I was dressed very modestly and I was walking just right beside my mother, and someone would just come and touch you inappropriately and then run. And this is something so common in Pakistan that when I sit together with my female friends and we talk about it, like, almost everyone has a story that, oh, it happened to me once and I slapped him and the guy. Or, like, these things are so common. And are they in any way representing Islam or the teachings of the Quran? No. Then our country also has a very high consumption of pornography on internet. Is it like something that Islam encourages? No. Again, not. Then there is a lot of hypocrisy in our country. Is that like what Islam teaches you? Definitely not. And then it's not the last one, like, I can continue it, but okay, there is also a lot of disrespect towards minorities, towards people who are not Muslims, towards Christians or Hindus. is it a teaching of Islam? No, because I remember, like, even as a child we used to read that if you want your religion to be respected, you should respect other religions. But people in practice don't really follow it. So these are a lot of things that I feel are very different in theory than in practice. Also, when it comes to women's education or them working outside, it's again like when we used to read the life of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, like he was married to this woman who was older than him, and she was known as a tradeswoman. She was a trader, so it means she was a working woman, and we had always read about her as, you know, like a role model. So again, but if you see it in practice, people would first, it's like too hypocritic that in our country still, if the bride is elder than the groom, it is frowned upon. You know, people will gossip about it and they will comment about it. Even though between Prophet, peace be upon him, and his first wife Khadija, Hazrat Khadija, it was a difference of, if I'm not mistaken, 15 years. She was 15 years older than the Prophet. But in our society, even now, even in educated families, if the bride is even a year or two elder than the groom, people would talk about it. Most of the times, actually, these weddings won't even take place because one of the objections the groom's family would raise is that the girl is older than our guy. Again, this is a perfect example of hypocrisy and how it's different in practice and in theory. Also, they would raise questions if women are like not housewives but they are working outside. Again, as I told you, like the Prophet's first wife was a working woman. So again, there is this difference. And now I would I think share this interesting story. So my own family, I won't say my family, but my relatives and extended relatives are very polarized. We have people who are strong religious, and then we have people who are more liberal. I come from a more liberal family, I would say. I'm also not very inclined towards religion. I'm more interested in spirituality personally, and I do believe in divine, but my relationship with religions had been like this. It's not very stable. But now I think I am where I wanted to be and I feel peace. But anyway, so I turned vegetarian. It's been more than a year now, and it had nothing to do with religion, to be honest. It was my own observation of what I felt was good for me, and that I felt that these industries are hurting animals or whatever. Like, I had my own reasons. But again, as I said to you before, that I don't like to propagate or spread my beliefs. I do encourage people to question, like, do question what is the source of this, but I would never want them to believe in something just because I believe in something. I always appreciate diversity, and I appreciate the brain that God has given us. And I feel that when I think about my understanding of God is that first, he's a creator, he's an artist, like divine. You can call him divine, Allah, Elohim, God, whatever you want. Even when I see the nature, when I see the sunset, there are those perfect blend of different colors. When you see around yourself, you see a hummingbird, a peacock, a tree. What makes everything beautiful is that there are different aspects which are blended and put in so perfectly in harmony and in peace. So I think that if God wanted us all to speak the same language or to have the same beliefs, he would have created us this way. He would not have given us this brain, you know, which can go into so many different directions. So again, like coming back to like, okay, I'm vegetarian, but I don't think that I am better than someone who is not vegetarian, or it's just like a personal choice and how I feel comfortable with. But from certain of my friends or acquaintances, I always receive this comment that, oh my God, like, you know, you are actually, why are you doing this to yourself? It is allowed in Quran to eat meat. And as I say, like, I cannot openly tell people because of the culture, the country I'm coming from, that, you know, for certain things I like to have my own beliefs, and I prefer my own beliefs, because my beliefs are the one that I developed after questioning or after my own observation. So it's easier for me to be true to them, and it's also in a way I'm being true to myself, because divine knows everything. So even if I say something that I don't really believe in my heart, the divine will know. So what's the point? And also I find it hypocritical, because I know they don't see everything from Quran before doing it, whether it's allowed or not. But when it comes to you bashing someone, they would, at once turn to Quran or to religion. Again, it's not following religion. In my views, it's using religion. If you're using it to defend yourself, if you're using it to, prove that someone else belief is wrong, for me it's not following, it's using religion. And especially when you're being selective about it and you ignore all the other things. Again, there are so many stories and anecdotes in Islam that we used to read when we were still young at school, that how religions encourage us to have mercy on animals, and that we are also responsible for, these creatures around us. So, but I never do the same, because, then there's no difference between us if I also start using religion to attack someone. But the most interesting encounter was with one of my uncles, who is also quite religious. And he said that being a vegetarian, I was actually being against God and being ungrateful to God, because all these things are there for us to eat, and if I'm like saying no to it, then I'm being ungrateful to God. And to further convince me, he narrated me a story that I tried to find even online, that if it has anything to do with the religion, but I couldn't. Maybe it was in another language, but okay. As a person, a curious person, or a person who uses brain, like, it doesn't seem very convincing. And the story was that once there were a few men who were hungry, and they found and caught a sparrow. But they were about to kill it for eating, but then they realized that it's so small and they won't get enough meat out of it, so what's the point? And then they released the bird. But the bird went to God and complained that your men, they caught me, but then they were derogatory toward me, or they were disrespectful toward me. They didn't realize my worth, and they set me free. So he was presenting it that the bird was actually complaining. Or in other words, if I see a can of tuna or if a chicken roast, and if I don't eat it, those will go and complain to God about me because I'm not eating them. And for me, I took it lightly. Of course, I was upset about it, but I didn't say anything in response, and I was just like, And also another interesting thing is that our people think that being a vegetarian is something which is influenced by non-Muslims, and it's just a part of like a Western culture. Because after this, he immediately asked me like, where were you living last? And I was like, I was in Turkey. And they were like, oh, but it's a Muslim country. So he was like, how come I was living in Turkey and now she has these kind of beliefs or thoughts? So I think it was interesting for him too, as it was interesting for me. But there is a chance that he just made the story up while he was sitting there, or I don't know if he heard it from someone. But the alarming point here is that he is above 50, my uncle. Like, if a 50-year-old person is believing in this story, then just imagine what you can make a person believe. Okay, this is somewhat, I would say, a harmless story. Like, it's not harming anyone, so I would say okay. But if you go and tell someone that by harming someone they are being closer to God, I mean, it's not very difficult. And I understand now that how these people become violent in the name of religion, because someone has just told them something and they just believed it. And this manipulation is as easy as that. It's sad, but and I'm sure, like, I have seen some other religions from close, and I think it exists in all religion. Like, if you read the history of what happened in Spain and in Italy when there were two, I don't remember which groups were it exactly, but it was all the different sects of Christianity who fought together. And if you read the history of certain churches or certain mosques, and then you feel this shiver down your spine of what has happened in those places. Like, I know in Pakistan, in a lot of mosques, there is a lot of problem with child abuse. There is a problem of child abuse in mosques by the people who preach religion. And I remember they tried to make, I think, a drama on it, like on television, or I think it was a short film, and it was banned. They never allowed its release because they thought that it's against, like misrepresenting our holy people in the country. But it does happen, and it often makes its way into the news because they are like, I don't know if they are sexually frustrated or whatever the reasons are, but even very recently this topic was in news. That there is a problem of child abuse in mosques. Like, either it's molestation, or there is also another way of child abuse where they hit kids a lot in mosques. And that I remember from also my, okay, I cannot say my personal experience, but my house was very close to a mosque, and there we used to hear that the imams, not the imams, or the people who were teaching Quran, they used to hit the kids with certain pipes. And the pipe hits like it's like a hunter or something. The way when it hits you, it's like really strong. And they would hit small children with it when they make a mistake while reading it. And it's not, I didn't read it from a news or a social media post. It was just happening near us, and we know. And that is one of the reasons that I never wanted to go there. Like, a lot of people in our neighborhood would go to the mosque to start learning how to read Quran, but I was scared, and I learned it from my mom. And also with my brother, I think he never went there. My mom taught him how to read Quran and everything. So again, the religion really tells you to be respectful to your elders and to treat children with love, but you are there hitting people. So again, it's not, something like a slight difference. It's completely opposite. So, yep, that's all. If you have any question, feel free to ask me.
Yes, I hope we will talk about religion and Islam next time, and yeah, I will do it.
Okay.